Alright, family. Truth Minister Paul Scott, Minister Information, Black Hoodie Brigade. We got an exclusive, family. We got an exclusive. Bull City Vanguard. Ashley Robbins, who is tearing up the city with controversy right now. Allegedly, or not so allegedly, about some wanted posters that have some politicians. But what I want to do is get into definitions. And we're broadcasting live from Braggtown Liberation Block, Durham, North Carolina. You know where we are. I want to get into some definitions because there's a lot of controversy going on. When you use the word, you call certain politicians social murderers. Can you explain to the people what a social murder is?
So social murder is a socio-political term coined by Frederick Inglis in 1845.
Tell the people who that is.
He was a friend of Karl Marx,
right,
a socialist theorist, and he wrote a book in 1845 called The Conditions of Working Class in England. And that's where the phrase come from. In his definition, he says, when one individual inflicts bodily injury upon another such that death results, we call the deed manslaughter. When the assailant knew in advance that the injury would be fatal, we call his deed murder. But when society places hundreds of proletarians, which means workers,
right,
in such a position that they inevitably meet a too early and unnatural death, one which is quite as much a death by violence as that by the sword or bullet, when it deprives thousands of the necessaries of life, places them under conditions in which they cannot live, forces them through the strong arm of the law to remain in such conditions until that death ensues, which is an inevitable consequence, knows that these thousands of victims must perish and yet permits these conditions to remain, its deed is murder, just as surely as the deed of the single individual. Disguised malicious murder, murder against which none can defend himself, which does not seem what it is because no man sees the murderer, because the death of the victim seems a natural one, since the offense is more one of omission than one of commission. But murder, it remains.
So thank you for clearing that up. So that's kind of like the definition of genocide.
Exactly.
Because genocide not only means, destroying a race. One of the definitions of genocide is creating the conditions
exactly
that would cause the extermination. What's up, fam? Peace. Everybody's good, bro. It's also causing the conditions that will stop even the population of a race.
Yep.
The reproduction of a race. That's genocide. So I'm glad you cleared that up. But let me ask you this. Why are people losing their minds? Getting all bent out of shape because you use that term social murder. What's behind all this madness?
Well, I think the primary reason is because it's black people depicted on the posters and the historical implications of seeing a black person on a wanted poster. But what I have reiterated from the onset of running for office and launching this journey is that Durham is in desperate need of some class consciousness and class analysis. So if you look in the conversations around this topic, it's very easy to pinpoint the bourgeoisie or the aspiring bourgeoisie in that bunch. Several of those folks are actively supporting people that they know are pro-developer and that they know are accelerating gentrification in Durham. And so maybe they feel convicted by the decisions that they're supporting and they're flailing to try to defend themselves.
Well, let's look at the history of a wanted poster. Now, I know you can say maybe people bring up enslaved ancestors, but are we really talking about that era? Or are we talking about the Wild Wild West era? Because usually with a wanted poster, you're really talking about cowboys.
Exactly.
You're talking about the Wild Wild West.
Right.
I don't remember any pictures of enslaved Africans with their picture up that it said wanted.
Right.
Maybe a description, but I don't recall historically many pictures of our enslaved ancestors on a wanted poster. Am I right or am I wrong?
You are correct, and the posters also don't look like some of the posters in that same font and style that
Right.
I even personally have one of myself when I was a child that says wanted, dead or alive. You go to any tourist location across the country, they sell those pictures. The fair starts next weekend. You can go get one of those pictures made, and it'll be you looking like you're from the back in time.
Wild
and
Wild
it'll say-
West.
In the Wild Wild West. And
Right.
it'll say wanted on it. Now, I didn't put dead or alive. I didn't put reward. I didn't darken their image or make them look any different than they naturally look. I just posted the poster to be provocative and to provoke. And
It
to,
worked.
and to hopefully encourage folks to go read and not just accept the narratives of people in power that want to try to spin things. Because the same person that's upset about this was just telling us a month ago when Charlie Kirk died that Durham is a place, he's happy to live in Durham. That's a place where you can speak your mind and be who you are.
I'm gonna get you on tape one day, twin.
Where you can speak your mind and be who you are and say what you feel, even if your views are abhorrent.
Right.
So I guess I'm confused now about how this is now a threat to you, and people are saying you need security because of a piece of paper on a light post, when that's distracting from the conditions that you're helping create that prompted the creation of the poster in the first place.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, possibility, hypothetically, this could be used to deflect attention from failed policies?
I think
Because a
most-
lot of policies people, a lot of policies people are talking about were actually failures.
Yes, I agree. Because even in what this definition says, in academic literature, we found two primary concepts of social murder. One, social murder as resulting from capitalist exploitation. So I will refer back to several interviews that Leonardo Williams has done where he is proclaiming to be a proud capitalist, which in itself makes you complicit in social murder. Number two, social murder as resulting from bad public policy across the domains of working conditions, living conditions, poverty, housing, racism, health inequities, crime and violence, neoliberalism, gender, food insecurity, social assistance, and deregulation and austerity. So if we look at the
See a
current,
book you like, grab it, bro.
if we look at the current city council campaign with development being one of the top issues of this definition, all of those things apply. Social assistance, deregulation, the whole UDO rewrite is about deregulating and reducing restrictions for people to be able to build in Durham. Which will lead to gentrification, which will increase crime and violence. We just had people shot up the road here the other night.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Friday.
And have you heard any policy suggestions on what these two are going to do? Other than, I can't imagine them wanting to do anything other than to drag ShotSpotter back from the dead and try to resurrect it.
Can we talk about ShotSpotter?
Sure.
If I could interject, excuse me for disturbing the flow, but I did some research on ShotSpotter, another failed program. And the person that ShotSpotter, they changed the name.
Sound Thinking is the new name.
Why they changed the name anyway? Another story. Now, the person they sent to sell that to the black and brown community was a man named Ron Teachman. Ron Teachman. Why does that name sound familiar? If you Google Ron Teachman, South Bend, Indiana, you'll see some racial stuff that was going on in the police department where they were claiming that black officers were claiming they were discriminated against. That's where Ron Teachman is from. That's during his administration. So why didn't anybody bring that up when he's the one in Durham, came to Durham, North Carolina to promote something to help the primarily black and brown community? Why didn't anybody say, well, what's your track record dealing with black folks? Nobody did the homework.
And the black man, Ralph Clark, who they brought in to help improve sales of the product, he wanted to get legitimized by going to Baltimore, and because he had never seen a fresh homicide.
Wow.
So he wanted to get legitimized by going to seeing a fresh dead body, and a child was murdered, a teenager was murdered in Baltimore, and that's how he earned his credibility to be able to sell ShotSpotter by witnessing a dead child in Baltimore.
Wow. What kind of ritualistic mess is that?
It's also important to note that Ron Teachman deployed ShotSpotter while he was a police chief, and then when he left, he took a job with ShotSpotter, making ShotSpotter, making $300,000 to sell it to other police departments.
Got to do your homework, people. Let me ask you this before we bounce out. One question I didn't ask you in the last interview. We always, they talk about the guns and the violence, like we said, right down the street. Last Friday, 3 young men were shot, unfortunately. At the same time, within an hour, you had shootings at Cornwalls. Where are these guns coming from? Why isn't anybody asking that fundamental question besides, teens breaking into cars? Where the guns coming from, sis, and why?
I mean, I think we all know that the government has a history of flooding black and poor communities with drugs and guns. We know that 15-year-olds are not going.
Dark Alliance, very well, pay attention.
Yes, we know teenagers aren't going to go purchase guns legally from a store or going to a manufacturer where these high-powered weapons are made. Has anybody investigated whether this stuff is coming from Fayetteville, Fort Bragg? I mean, there's a book called The Fort Bragg Cartel, all about how the complicity of the military in drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and weapons distribution. There have been several shootouts in different cities across the state and the country involving military people, and it's dismissed as road rage or all these other things. And the author of that book says many of those instances are cause of those folks being involved in underground drugs and gun running for profit. So I suspect many of those guns are coming from there. They say when they do these gun buyback programs that they destroy the guns, but how does the public to know that that's happening? As incompetent as the police are. And furthermore, not too long ago, a young man was shot twice in the Durham police headquarters, and they say that he did that to himself.
Right.
So, I think the violence conversations get people going, and then they get people to co-sign on policies that are detrimental out of emotional reactions, and they don't do anything to require government, city, federal, state to do anything about the conditions which produce the conditions that produce these outcomes where young people are out here doing this.
Right.
The mayor brags about this $300,000 invested in the Bull City Futures Fund, but looking at those organizations, I don't see any of those organizations specifically about violence interruption. Like, they're good organizations, they do good work for the youth, but none of them seem to be exactly for violence interruption.
Right.
And that's really what we need, like a presence of people who are connected with community, who can diffuse some of these heated tensions between people. And when people are oppressed and stuck and dealing with madness every day, sickness every day, poverty every day, then they respond in these impulsive ways against the people that they live in proximity to. Because they don't have the power to go attack the people that's really causing these conditions, so they take it out on other people that's close to them.
Displaced aggression. Pay attention.
Exactly.
So and also we can't forget about the T Hart Amendment.
That's right.
Because a lot of people, you know, you got mothers crying all these forums. You ask the police, you ask the politicians where the guns are coming from. You ask the law enforcement where the guns are coming from. Under the T Hart Amendment, it's a law that says they cannot tell you where the guns are coming from. Look it up. It's called the T Hart, T-I-A-H-R-T, T Hart Amendment.
Yep.
Baltimore, just 2 years ago, sued the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, to repeal the T Hart Amendment. Durham won't do it. Why do you think that is, sis?
As I've stated before, I think crime is a money-making enterprise, and I don't mean for the people that's committing the so-called crimes. I mean for the people who are charged with preventing the crimes or legislating the crime or being the judiciary over the crime. It's too profitable, and it helps also accelerate the gentrification, because then you can label a neighborhood the slums and depreciate its value, get all these people to come in and buy up the land and then resell it to other folks. So it's beneficial to keep the crime. It's advantageous to the people in power to have these type of conditions so that they can have something to continuously run on. Because when you solve it, there's nothing else for you to run on.
And a lot of people be out of work.
And people keep talking about adding more police, but I've talked to people in McDougal Terrace, and the reality is the police are scared. They don't get out and do anything. I talked to people who say they watched somebody they love die while the police sat in their car because they was too scared to come out and do anything, because they don't want to risk their life, even though it's framed to us as if policing is the most dangerous job and they are putting their lives at risk for us, when really they're responding after something happens. Just like ShotSpotter. ShotSpotter doesn't prevent any crime. It may send a sensor to alert somebody that a crime has been committed, but it doesn't do anything to prevent crime, and it also requires human intervention, and it also isn't accurate all the time.
So it's just basically to make people say, hey, we're doing something.
Exactly, and it's something to get for folks to get rich off of surveillance technology. And they try to say it isn't surveillance technology, but the same technology used in ShotSpotter is used to deploy drones in Gaza.
Same technology.
People. Exactly.
Wow. All right, sister, we are wrapping it up, and we are broadcasting live from Braggtown Liberation Block, Bull City, Durham, North Carolina. You had an exclusive. So if there are any questions about what social murder is, you had a Black Hoodie Brigade exclusive. So thank you for your time, sister. We always appreciate your voice.
I just want to add one thing.
Go ahead.
Just because you share identity with a person does not mean you're in community with them. Just because you're both black does not mean those people are in community with you. Those people have far surpassed being connected to poor working class black people, and they are doing whatever they got to do to service capital and fatten their own pockets at your expense. So do not put yourself out there trying to defend these bozos that don't care about you at all.
All I'm trying to say is they don't really care about us. That's what Michael Jackson told you. And on that note, we out of here. Peace.